It still surprises people when I tell them how we met. There was no dramatic first glance, no instant spark. It was just a Wednesday at the DMV, two people waiting in separate lines, equally bored and irritated. I dropped my wallet. She picked it up. That was it. We ended up talking for 10 minutes outside, then again over coffee the next day. It didn't feel like fate, it felt real. Easy. Her name was Marcy. She was a couple years younger than me, funny in this dry, offbeat way. She could make anything sound sarcastic, even when she was being completely serious. At the time, she was doing night shifts at a diner and cleaning offices in the early mornings. I was working as a technician for a commercial HVAC company, mostly crawling through ceilings and basements of office buildings. We didn't fall into love so much as grow into it. We moved in together after a year. A cheap but decent two-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it had space and it felt like ours. Marcy hated the carpets but loved the kitchen. I let her choose the paint colors, even though every wall ended up some version of sage or off-white. By the time we got married, she had started working for a private cleaning service that specialized in luxury homes. It paid better, came with more stable hours, and the company treated her well. At least, that's what she told me. They had strict rules, high expectations, and a long list of elite clients. She used to joke that she cleaned more square footage per week than I ever walked on. We didn't have kids. It wasn't off the table, just not urgent. We both liked our routine. Our Sundays were slow. Breakfast at the same diner where she used to work, grocery runs, maybe a movie at home. She still cooked most nights, said it helped her wind down. I took over the laundry and most of the errands. Money wasn't a problem. We weren't rich, but between my steady hours and her job, we lived comfortably. No debts hanging over us, no real worries. We'd been saving up for a new car, something small and reliable, since our old sedan was on its last legs. Marcy kept talking about hybrids and sunroofs. I just wanted something that wouldn't rattle when I hit 40 miles per hour. Our social circle was small. Some co-workers, a couple of neighbors we occasionally had dinner with. Marcy's sister lived 2 towns over, and they texted constantly. She wasn't big on social media. Said she hated seeing people pretend their lives were perfect. I liked that about her. She never tried to act like anyone else. There was something very grounded about the way we lived. Not flashy. Just ours. We didn't have a lot of drama. We didn't need big moments to feel close. It was the little stuff, folding laundry side by side, arguing over which pasta sauce to buy, the way she'd squeeze my shoulder in passing when I was at the sink. Marcy's job started to come with perks. The company had a uniform policy, plain black polos with their logo stitched on the chest, dark jeans, non-slip shoes. But every few months, they'd issue new sets, and she always kept hers neat. She took pride in looking professional, even if it was cleaning someone else's house. She said the wealthy clients could be picky, and appearances mattered. She worked in teams, usually 2 or 3 cleaners per house, and rotated across several neighborhoods. Most of her assignments were in the hills outside town, gated communities, estates with long driveways and panoramic windows. Sometimes she'd tell me about the ridiculous things people owned. One guy had a closet just for watches, complete with glass displays and temperature control. Another woman had a dog spa built into her laundry room. Marcy thought it was absurd, but she laughed when she said it, not bitter. Once or twice, she came home with small gifts. A tipped bottle of wine. A thank you card with $100 bill. She said the rich didn't always know what to do with their gratitude, so they threw money at it. I asked if the company allowed that, and she shrugged. As long as it's not cash in an envelope, no one says anything. I didn't think much of it. Her job was physical, thankless work. If someone wanted to tip her for scrubbing 10 bathrooms in a mansion, fine by me. She never came home bragging, just tired and ready to shower. That was her rhythm: come in, shoes off at the door, uniform in the wash, 20 minutes under hot water. Then sweatpants and quiet. My job kept me busy too. I was training a couple of new techs, which meant longer hours and early starts. Marcy would usually be gone before I woke up. I'd leave notes on the counter: coffee in the thermos, dog needs food, leftovers in the fridge. She'd reply by texting me a photo of the empty thermos or a thumbs up with a tired emoji. It was our version of checking in. Evenings were still ours, for the most part. We'd sit on the porch after dinner when the weather was nice. She'd scroll through her phone, read me bits from articles or the occasional rant from her sister. We didn't talk about work too much. I think we both liked the quiet. She started getting more weekend assignments. It wasn't a surprise. The company had been expanding, and the wealthier clients often wanted service before parties or after events. The money was better, and Marcy liked picking up extra hours. One Saturday she came home with a fresh manicure, light beige, glossy, neat. She said one of her clients had treated the whole team to appointments at the salon next door after they finished a big job. He does this sometimes, she said, slipping off her shoes. Says it's a thank you for dealing with his crazy marble floors. She held up her hands for me to see. Not bad, right? I told her they looked great, and she grinned before heading off to shower. Our mornings were simple, and I liked that. I usually woke up first, started the coffee, fed the dog, and let the house stretch into the day before the rest of the world caught up. Marcy's mornings were more rushed. She had a 30-minute drive to her first job most days and liked to get there early. She'd move through the kitchen quickly, grabbing her thermos, adjusting her ponytail in the microwave reflection, humming something under her breath. She was always humming. Sometimes we'd cross paths in the hallway, and she'd kiss my cheek with toothpaste still on her lips. She liked structure, but never felt rigid. Her routine was her way of finding peace. On Fridays, she'd bring home these little candles from a discount store she liked: lavender, eucalyptus, cinnamon, vanilla, and light them in the bathroom while she soaked after work. I handled most of the grocery shopping. Every Sunday morning, we'd sit at the kitchen table with coffee and make a loose meal plan. Marcy never liked repeating dinners 2 weeks in a row, so we rotated favorites and tried new recipes from whatever cooking blog she'd been reading. She wasn't fancy about it, she just liked making food that felt like home. Her lasagna was my personal favorite. Thick layers, heavy on the sauce, crispy on top. No shortcuts. Every other weekend we'd go see her sister, Liana. She lived about 45 minutes out, in a smaller town with more trees than people. Liana had 3 boys under 10, and the house was always chaos, in a good way. Marcy was the fun aunt. She'd show up with snacks, or dollar store toys, or those slime kits that drove Liana insane. The kids adored her. At home, we kept things neat. Not obsessive, just comfortable. Our place had warm lighting, shelves full of second-hand books, throw blankets draped over chairs that never got used. Marcy always kept fresh dish towels in the kitchen, always bought the same brand of soap, always stocked extra batteries and birthday cards. She was prepared for everything in small, thoughtful ways. We weren't showy people. We didn't post about our relationship online, didn't need people to tell us we looked happy. We just were. Our life didn't revolve around vacations or big moments. It was the everyday things that meant something: passing each other the remote without asking, splitting dessert even when we said we wouldn't, folding laundry while the radio played in the background. She still worked long hours, but it never took her away from me. We'd eat late dinners, sometimes in silence, sometimes laughing so hard we'd forget to chew. She told me stories about the strange things she found while cleaning: a collection of antique combs, a drawer full of vintage lighters, a man who paid extra to have his pool house floors cleaned with a specific kind of mop no one else was allowed to use. I'd listen, sip my drink, and wait for her to get through the story before asking what she wanted to watch that night. Usually something easy. Sitcoms, documentaries. Nothing that required too much thinking. We had our pace, and it worked. That spring, we finally bought the car. We'd been talking about it for months, comparing models, checking used listings, going back and forth on whether we needed something new or just new to us. In the end, we settled on a low-mileage hatchback from a dealership 2 towns over, clean interior, reliable, just enough tech to feel like an upgrade without being flashy. It was silver, with seats that still smelled like factory leather and a trunk that didn't rattle. We signed the paperwork on a Saturday morning and drove straight to our favorite sandwich shop afterward. Marcy insisted on taking the wheel first. "Feels like I'm driving a spaceship," she said, laughing as she tapped the screen that controlled the radio. I watched her adjust the seat 3 times in 5 minutes. She was giddy. I hadn't seen her that excited about something in a while. We ate in the car, windows down, breeze coming in. It felt good. Normal. Ours. She started volunteering to do the weekend errands after that. Grocery runs, picking up supplies, even dropping by the post office, which she used to avoid like it was cursed. I didn't mind. She enjoyed driving it, and I liked the quiet mornings at home. Sometimes I'd clean up, fix small things around the apartment, or just sit on the porch with the dog and a coffee. The apartment complex had started renovations on the outer buildings, and construction crews were around almost daily. Marcy always left notes on the fridge reminding me which lot was blocked off or where not to park. She had a talent for keeping everything moving smoothly, like a traffic controller for our life. Work was steady. My team had picked up a new commercial contract, which meant longer hours during the week but more consistent pay. Marcy's schedule stayed more or less the same, though she mentioned she was being assigned to a new cluster of homes, a couple of regulars, 1 or 2 new ones, she said. She never made a big deal out of it. Just added a note on the calendar and adjusted her lunch box to match the longer drives. Some nights, after dinner, we'd go for short drives. No destination, just windows down, music low, the kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. She liked to narrate the lives of people we passed. "That guy just bought a kayak and doesn't know how to use it," she'd say, pointing at someone fumbling with their roof rack. Or, "That woman's definitely spying on her neighbor, look at her blinds." I'd laugh. She always had something to say, and it always made the drive feel shorter. At night, she'd fall asleep first, like always. She slept curled on her side, blanket wrapped around one arm, breathing steady. I'd usually stay up a little longer, finishing a show or skimming through emails. The apartment was quiet at night, no creaks, no traffic. Just the hum of the fridge and the sound of her breathing from the other room. We weren't chasing anything. We didn't need to. Life was moving in its own rhythm, and we were right there with it. It started with the jacket. We were heading out to her sister's for dinner. Marcy came out of the bedroom in jeans and a black sweater, normal, but then she grabbed a jacket I didn't recognize. Pale gray, fitted, gold zippers on the pockets. Not flashy, but definitely newer than anything else in her closet. It wasn't the kind of thing she usually bought, she was practical, not big on trends. "New?" I asked, casually. She paused, looked at it, then nodded. "Yeah. Got it last week. Clearance rack." She didn't offer more. Just zipped it up and grabbed her bag. I didn't say anything else, but for a moment I tried to remember if I'd seen it in the laundry. I hadn't. No tags either. Maybe she bought it while she was out running errands, tossed the tag, hung it up without a word. It wasn't strange, just new. Something I didn't pick. Dinner at Liana's was the usual chaos. The boys were hyped up on juice boxes and sugar, and Marcy was in her element. She sat on the floor with them, building some kind of tower from plastic cups while Liana and I talked over pasta. I watched her laugh, full and effortless, and whatever weird beat I'd felt earlier, it faded. On the way home, she played music from her phone, singing softly along to a song I didn't know. I asked who it was, and she told me. Client recommendation, she said. He's obsessed with playlists. He play music while you're working? I asked, half joking. She smiled. All the time. You'd hate it. Very moody rich guy stuff. I nodded. We didn't talk more about it. It didn't seem worth holding on to. That week, I noticed her schedule shifted a little. She started working an extra half-day on Wednesdays. Not full shifts, just quick touch-ups, she said. Some of the regulars requested extra service between visits. She said the company was cracking down on quality assurance and asking senior cleaners to take on those bonus hours. Made sense. She'd been there a while. She started keeping a notebook in her bag. Not a planner, she already had one of those, just a small black notebook she said she used to track mileage and hours. I asked if her company started requiring that. No, she said, shrugging. Just easier than their app sometimes. Again, nothing strange. Marcy was always more organized than she gave herself credit for. It wasn't the kind of thing that raised alarms. But I found myself thinking about it again the next day when she left it on the table by accident. I picked it up to move it aside. Didn't open it. Just held it. It was heavier than I expected. She texted me not 10 minutes later, "Hey, left my notebook. Mind tossing it in my top drawer?" "Sure," I replied. I put it where she asked, closed the drawer, and didn't think about it again. Not really. The following week brought more small changes, none of them loud, none of them wrong. Just, new. One afternoon I came home early from a job site. I was supposed to be out till 6, but a pipe fitting issue got resolved quicker than expected. The place was quiet. I walked in and saw a paper bag on the kitchen counter. It had a sleek logo printed on the side, some boutique bakery uptown we'd never shopped at. Inside was a single slice of cake in a clear box and a small card folded neatly beside it. No writing. Blank. Just tucked there like it belonged. I figured maybe someone from work gave it to her, a client, maybe a team lead. Marcy's company had all kinds of people. Some were known to tip with pastries instead of cash. When she came home, I mentioned it casually. "You left cake on the counter. Thought you didn't like mousse." "Oh, yeah," she said, glancing over. That was from a client. They were celebrating something. Offered everyone a slice. She tossed her keys in the bowl, took off her shoes, and headed straight to the shower. Her voice hadn't shifted, but she didn't look at me when she said it. I didn't push. It was cake. That weekend we ran errands together, and everything felt normal again. She tried on sunglasses at the pharmacy while I waited in line for allergy meds. We picked up dog food, made jokes about bumper stickers on parked cars, argued briefly about whether we needed more frozen peas. We stopped at a new taco truck on the way home. She made a mess of herself with the sauce and laughed so hard she had to roll the window down for air. That part of her never changed, she could find the absurdity in anything. But on Monday, she forgot her phone. It was sitting face down on the table when I came back from grabbing something from the garage. I saw it there, still and quiet. It buzzed once while I stood next to it. Just a quick vibration, no tone. I didn't look at the screen. A few minutes later, she came back in, keys in one hand, travel mug in the other, and her eyes went right to the table. She grabbed the phone and checked the screen instantly, thumbing through notifications fast before dropping it into her bag. "Forgot it," she said, and smiled. I nodded. She kissed my cheek and left. It was small. Nothing bad. People forget their phones all the time. But it stayed with me, just a little. The speed with which she checked it. The way her thumb moved before she even fully looked. The next day, the bakery bag was gone. By the following week, I noticed Marcy had started changing her clothes right after getting home. That wasn't unusual by itself, Her job was physical, and she always liked to wash off the day. But now she was heading straight to the bedroom before even saying much. Sometimes she'd come in, give me a quick kiss, say, "Long day," and disappear down the hall without even taking her shoes off first. She didn't always shower right away either. Just changed. Jeans, plain top, a spritz of something that wasn't the usual lavender body spray she used. I never said anything. It didn't feel wrong. But it was different. She also started keeping her work bag on the floor next to her side of the bed instead of on the kitchen chair or hall table like she used to. She was always a little particular about her bag, but now she placed it there with this unconscious consistency, same spot every time, zipped shut, nothing spilling out. One afternoon I came home a bit early and heard her on the phone in the bedroom. The door was half closed. I didn't mean to listen, but the way her voice dropped, low, careful, made me stop just for a second in the hallway. "I know," she was saying, "but I can't just, not today, okay?" There was a pause. Then a softer tone, "Tomorrow maybe. If it works." I walked into the kitchen to make noise. Clanked a few plates, turned on the faucet. She came out a few minutes later, phone gone, smiling like always. "You're early," she said. "Everything good?" "Yeah. Nothing big at work today. We had dinner, watched something dumb on TV, went to bed without anything strange happening. But I couldn't quite settle. My brain kept going back to that half-heard conversation. The way she'd said, "Not today." I didn't know what it was. Could have been a friend. Could have been about something I had no context for. But the words didn't sit right. Later that night, I got up to get water. As I passed by the bedroom door, I glanced inside and saw the glow of her phone screen lighting up her face. She was lying on her side, turned away from me, scrolling through something. Not unusual. I grabbed my glass, took a sip, and went back to bed. But something about the silence in that moment stayed with me, how she didn't look up when I walked past, didn't say a word. The next morning, she made pancakes. It wasn't a special day. Just felt like it. She flipped them in the pan, humming a tune I didn't recognize. When I asked what song it was, she said, "Something a client played." It stuck in my head. She served the pancakes with that same little smile she always had when she cooked something nice for no reason. I ate every bite. It wasn't tension, not yet. But something had shifted. Not in her tone, not in the way she touched my hand, but in the air between us. Like a wall was being built, one invisible layer at a time. I left on a Thursday. A last-minute business trip 2 states over, a routine site inspection. Nothing major, just a few meetings and a walk-through with a regional contractor. I packed light, left early, and texted Marcy when I got to the hotel. She sent back a selfie of the dog curled up on the couch and a "miss you already" with a heart. I smiled, dropped my phone on the nightstand, and fell asleep without a second thought. The next 2 days passed quickly. I was back on the road by Saturday afternoon, ahead of schedule. I didn't bother texting her. I figured I'd surprise her with dinner. Pick something up on the way home. I stopped at a little bistro we liked, grabbed her favorite, grilled chicken sandwich with truffle fries, and headed straight for the apartment. It was around 6:40 when I got home. I still had my keys in hand when I realized something was off. The front door was unlocked. Not wide open, just ajar enough to let in the faintest breeze. Marcy never left it like that. Ever. I stepped inside slowly, quiet out of instinct more than fear. At first everything looked normal. The hallway, the kitchen light on, faint music playing from the speaker in the living room, low, jazzy, something she usually played while cleaning. Then I heard a voice. Male. Low. Confident. I froze in place. Another voice. Hers. Laughing, not loudly, but close. Too close. I couldn't move for a second. I didn't want to believe what I already knew. But I walked forward anyway. Slowly. The living room was empty, but 2 glasses sat on the coffee table. Red wine, nearly full. Her shoes were by the couch. A man's jacket, not mine, was hanging on the back of the chair. Then I saw them. In the bedroom. Door half closed, like a cruel repeat of the hallway conversation from before. I didn't have to push it open. I saw enough through the gap. She was in a black tank top, barefoot, sitting on the edge of the bed. He stood in front of her, tall, well-dressed, gold watch catching the light. He leaned in, touched her face like they'd done it 100 times. She didn't pull away. I didn't speak. I backed away, out of the hallway, past the dog who looked up at me with a quiet blink. I placed the takeout bag on the kitchen counter, calmly, like I didn't just walk into the collapse of everything I believed in. Outside, I stood by the car, hands braced on the roof. My heart was pounding, but my mind was sharp. Not panicked. Focused. She was cheating. In our home. With someone who didn't belong in our world, someone expensive, someone practiced. Someone who walked through the front door like he'd done it before. I got in the car and drove 5 blocks down. Parked. Sat there for a long time without the engine running. Then I pulled out my phone and took a breath. It wasn't going to stop at this. The next morning, I didn't speak to Marcy. She was already gone when I woke up, no note, no text, nothing. Her shoes weren't at the door. The black tank top she wore last night wasn't in the laundry bin. The bed looked untouched. I made coffee in silence and sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through emails I didn't care about until the caffeine kicked in. Then I opened a new tab and started digging. Her company had a basic website, contact info, team bios, a short paragraph about professionalism and trust. I called the main number and asked to speak to someone in HR. The receptionist sounded too cheerful for a Monday. I told her I had a serious concern involving one of their employees. They transferred me. I spoke slowly. Calmly. I gave them my full name. I told them my wife worked for them. I asked, "Are your cleaners allowed to bring clients into their personal homes?" The woman on the other end didn't hesitate, absolutely not. Against policy. Clear lines. No off-hours engagement, no personal contact outside of scheduled jobs. She started to ask why. So I told her. Everything I saw. The date, the time, the man's name, at least the one I remembered. I didn't embellish anything. I didn't need to. Her voice stiffened as I spoke. She said they would escalate it internally and thanked me for calling. I hung up and didn't wait for anyone to follow up. That was step 1. Step 2 took longer. I sat down at the desk and started pulling everything I could remember. I knew the man's face, tall, clean-shaven, dark blazer, heavy watch. I remembered part of the name Marcy had said once, in passing. I searched for real estate developers in the area, narrowed by neighborhood, and cross-referenced any social media I could find. It didn't take long. There he was. Name, Mitchell Rowe. A private client real estate consultant, with luxury listings and a half-fake smile in every photo. His profile was curated, no family photos, just cars, suits, buildings, and vague motivational quotes. I kept digging. Found a press article from 2 years ago, his name mentioned in connection to a shell company that had since dissolved. Not charged. Just referenced. A footnote. I kept going. A legal blog buried on page 5 of the search results mentioned his name again, this time linked to an open financial crime investigation involving fraud and high-value laundering. Still no arrest. Still nothing confirmed. But his name showed up too many times in the wrong places to ignore. So I made a call. The FBI has a local field office with an anonymous tip line. I didn't stutter. I gave them the full name, the car I saw him drive, the plates, the location. I told them what I walked in on, what I believed, what I found online. I said I didn't want anything, no money, no protection. Just that if they were still looking for him, I knew where they could start. I ended the call and sat still for a long time. That evening, Marcy came home. She looked tired. Not physically, like her nerves were worn down to the thread. She walked in, saw me at the table, and didn't even try to pretend. She stood in the doorway with her keys still in hand and said quietly, "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. I went to the bedroom, grabbed the file I printed, all the screenshots, every article, every name. I placed it on the kitchen table in front of her. She didn't reach for it. She just stared. "You'll want to get ahead of this," I said. That night, she packed a bag. She left without saying where she was going. The bag she packed was small. No suitcase, just a duffel. I didn't watch her go. I stayed in the kitchen, rinsing a glass that didn't need to be rinsed. She paused near the door and said my name softly. I didn't look up. The door closed behind her, and the apartment felt twice as big. That night, I barely slept. Not because of her. Because of the silence. After everything, the lies, the man, the phone calls, the hollow apology, it wasn't anger that kept me awake. It was a kind of stillness I hadn't felt before. Cold. Mechanical. Like I was processing a situation instead of experiencing one. By the next afternoon, I received an email from her company. She'd been officially terminated. The language was professional: violation of conduct policy, breach of employee-client boundary agreement, effective immediately. I didn't reply. 3 hours later, I got a call from a blocked number. I let it ring. Then voicemail. The voice was calm, clipped, professional. A man identifying himself only by title. He said my report had been reviewed. That Mitchell Rowe had already been flagged in a larger investigation. That my information filled a useful gap. They might follow up. They might not. Either way, I'd done enough. I saved the message. I didn't play it again. That evening, I threw out the wine glasses. Both of them. Then I cleaned the bedroom. Washed the sheets, flipped the mattress, opened all the windows. Her scent still clung to the pillows, so I threw those out too. I didn't want anything soft in the room for a while. The next day, I told my boss I needed a few days off. He didn't ask questions. I took the dog and drove out to the state park where Marcy and I once went for a weekend hike. I didn't walk the trail. I just sat in the car, parked near the trees, and let the world move around me. No one called. No apology from her. No attempt to explain. Nothing from the man either. I watched the news that week. Nothing on the surface, but one article online mentioned a federal inquiry into a fraudulent property development firm. No names yet. No mugshots. But the timing lined up. On Thursday, Marcy's sister texted me, "Are you okay?" I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to. I just didn't have anything left to say. It felt like everything that needed to be done had been done. The job was finished. Now came the blank space that follows. I started cleaning the apartment the same way Marcy used to, room by room, drawer by drawer, quiet music in the background. I scrubbed the baseboards. I refolded the towels. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just worked through the space until it stopped feeling like she was coming back. On Friday, I unplugged the speaker. Threw away the notebook she used to track her hours. Cleared her side of the closet. I didn't touch the photo on the fridge. Not yet. I wasn't rebuilding. I wasn't moving on. I was just clearing space. Making room for something else. Whatever that might be. It took me a week to take the photo off the fridge. It was a cheap print from a photo booth, taken at some fair we stopped at years ago. We weren't dressed for pictures, her hair was windblown, I had a mustard stain on my shirt, but she pulled me into the booth anyway. For quick snaps, all blurry and crooked, both of us laughing by the last one. For a while, it was just part of the kitchen. A background detail. Something you see so often, you stop seeing it. That morning, I looked at it like it was new. I peeled the magnet away and slid the strip into a drawer. I didn't rip it. I didn't throw it out. Just put it somewhere I didn't have to look. The rest of the apartment came next. Little things. Her slippers under the bed. The half-used lotion bottle on the bathroom sink. A scarf tossed behind the coat rack. Every time I found something, I picked it up, held it for a moment, then placed it in the box I kept in the hall closet. One box. Not much more than that. I haven't seen her since that night she walked out with the duffel. I never asked where she went. She didn't offer. No texts. No letters. No dramatics. It's like we'd silently agreed that whatever we were had run its course, and dragging it out would only make the break feel smaller than it deserved. Mitchell Rowe's name eventually showed up in a formal report. No mugshot, but enough detail to confirm what I'd found: multiple counts of financial fraud, false identity use, and obstruction. No mention of Marcy. She wasn't part of the story. At least not officially. Just another name that would never be printed. I never told anyone what happened. Not really. If friends asked, I said we separated, left it at that. People don't want details. They want clean answers. I had none. I've started walking more. Early mornings, before work. Just me, the dog, and the sound of gravel under my boots. I used to hate the cold. Now I lean into it. It reminds me I'm still here. Still moving. The new routines help. I changed the layout of the living room. Got a different bedspread. Cooked the meals I like, even if I burn half of them. Some nights, I still sit at the kitchen table a little longer than I need to. Not sad. Just quiet. I didn't deserve what she did. That's something I've let myself say out loud now. Not because I want pity. But because there's something solid about calling a thing what it is. She made her choices. I made mine. And now the space between those choices is where I live.